So the FBI, the DEA, at the Ballistic Research Lab in Quantico, Virginia, they did some testing. They compared the results of our helmet. There was a solicitation out there for helmets, and from what I understand, that solicitation was canceled. And the DEA and the FBI, in consultation with the U.S. Marshals, basically created their own protocol, kind of like the body armor protocol. They said, okay, we've been accepting this test for 40 years. Now we need something. We need
Well, welcome to another episode of Complacency Kills, a Kontek podcast. And today, actually, we just finished up here just a few moments ago out at the range not too far from our office in Kannapolis, North Carolina. And today I've got Scott Wyatt with me from Busch PROtective North America. And we took it upon ourselves to put a little test together with the Busch helmet system versus a lot of your competitors.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, well, I just want to say thanks for coming out, man. It's been awesome.
Today was awesome. It was kind of cold as balls when we got here, but it worked out really well. Yeah.
No, absolutely. So, yeah, if you can, for those that aren't too familiar with Busch PROtective, can you just give us a little background on what you do and what the company does in general?
Sure. So Busch PROtective is a helmet manufacturer that is purpose-built for law enforcement helmets. So we were founded in 2011. Edwin Busch founded the organization. His father has actually been building helmets for the military for more than 40 years. Edwin started Busch PROtective specifically to focus on law enforcement helmets, and I think actually the primary reason is sitting right in front of you.
Yeah.
Because when Edwin's father passed, he inherited the company, he started doing some testing, and he realized, he's like, these helmets are great against frag, but what happens if if an officer actually encounters in a CQB situation a 9mm round? What's going to happen? Is he going to stay in the fight? And the general consensus was, well, we don't test for that, but probably not. So Busch PROtective has been producing helmets globally for more than a decade. Back in 2011, the Busch AMP1 TP was actually created. It is certified to the European VPAM 3 standard. And then it was introduced into the U.S. market back in 2015. The U.S. Marshals started doing some testing. The FBI stepped in, worked with the DEA, and realized that not only on the penetration side, but on the back face deformation and the safety issue, the TP was next level. So we've been rapidly penetrating the law enforcement market, a lot of counterterrorism teams globally, all throughout Europe, Asia, Middle East. And specifically in the last 5-6 years, we started Busch PROtective in the U.S. With rapid delivery. So basically doing kitting and assembly here in California.
Okay.
And it's been awesome. It's been a fun ride.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's amazing. And just give a little background between just the two of us. So Kontek, we work with Armor Express, and our good buddy Dave Jones was working there. And so we got introduced to Busch helmets, and particularly in nuclear security and in the law enforcement sectors that we do work, we definitely wanted to have an option to give to our customers because we're asked pretty frequently. As we work in the armor space, but not the personal body armor space, we still get asked the question a lot about everything from vests, plates to helmets. Mm-hmm. So after doing some research and learning more from Dave Jones, we got introduced to you, and it's been a good ride since, man.
You guys are a premier player, especially in the energy sector and the nuclear security market. We have a premier product, and quite frankly, we want to work with premier partners.
Yeah.
And it's been great. I mean, we've been able to introduce it to teams that, quite frankly, didn't know the limitations of their existing products. So for us to be able to get it out in the marketplace, showcase that you can expect more, you can expect a better product, and you can protect what matters, right? It's been fantastic.
Yeah.
And we're very humble to have had the success that we have. It's been through a lot of hard work. It's been through a lot of education because, quite frankly, most people have no idea what their helmets will and won't do. And most of them think that, well, because the military uses this version, we should do it too. But it's a different mission. Yeah. And that's what we've been trying to educate the market on.
Yeah.
That's what I spend a lot of my time doing, is just basically saying, listen, what is your specific mission? Tell me about what you're doing at a patrol level or at a CQB or some sort of tactical operation. What are you worried about? What do you want to be protected against? And how can we give you what you need for that specific duty?
Right. And what's interesting that you kind of hinted on there that has stood out to me, especially as a third party, not a manufacturer, when you're doing research, your own research on your helmet, right, is you get the 2 spec sheets out from Competitor X and from Busch, and a lot of things are pretty comparable, right? The cuts, the cut type, weights,
they look the same,
and they both say, oh, that they're NIJ 3A certified or rated, right? And so from a spec sheet perspective, I can imagine a lot of officers looking at that and doing A and B, and so now you're up to kind of a 50-50 coin toss at that point. But when I got out here on the range with you today, I mean, it's night and day, right? The actual real-world performance of the 2 helmets. And so to your point is that the education piece is huge, and that's kind of what we were hoping to achieve here today was helping get the word out there that like there is a significant life-saving component that a spec sheet is not going to show until both competitor X and I know you guys advocate your back face deformation and how good it is, right? So until other people are doing that, end users don't have like a good apples to apples comparison when they're shopping.
And I've been doing this now for with Busch for more than I think 7 or 8 years. I have yet to ever have a competitor willingly show up to a shoot like this, bring their helmet, and do a side-by-side test.
Yeah.
And the offer is out there.
Yep.
Can you hear me in the back? The offer is out there. And what we do is, and for anybody who watched the video, we try to have intellectual integrity. We try to be very fair, very comparable. And I tell people, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, this right here is a great frag helmet. It is great for military applications, right?
Yep.
That's what it was designed for. It was not designed to stop a 9mm round.
Yep.
Now, will it stop the round? Yeah. Most of the helmets out there that are 3A, and before we started talking, I mean, were you really familiar with what the 3A test was, or do you just assume, oh, it's 3A, it must be good?
Yeah, not until I got involved with you. If I was looking at a spec sheet, I was like 3A certified, okay. And if you were shopping around for other helmets and they didn't have that, you'd roll them out, right? But when you actually look into the details of what the 3A test actually consists of, it does. It stops short of actually testing for real world performance.
Right. Well, you just use 2 words there that are important. So you use testing and certified. So basically, the NIJ 3A is a test. Okay, it was way back it actually started in 1975. There wasn't a little 3A; it was a level 2.
Okay.
It was a lower velocity. It was like 38s and 22s and a lower velocity 9mm. Then it went to, I think it was 1985. We started when the NIJ came out with the 3A body armor standard. Right. I think it was the 04 standard, and then you had the Interim 05. That's when they switched and they increased the velocity of the 9mm, and then they added in the 357. They had the 357 mag on the level 2, and on a 3A body armor now we had the 44 mag, and an increased velocity on the 9. So helmet manufacturers, including the old Busch, would say, oh, great, well, now we'll just shoot it with a 9 and a 44, and we'll call it the modified 3A. The second word you used was certified. They're not certified. And I can't tell you how many people, how many agencies I've talked to that have said, oh, our helmets are certified. And I'm like, no, dude, sorry, it's not.
Right.
Well, yeah, I even had one agency guy says, I guarantee you that the helmets that we're using are certified by the NIJ, and they're on the CPL just like body armor. I said, okay, no problem. If you can show me that certification, I'll give you 100 helmets for free. Guy's like, I'll be right back. He comes back about like 10 minutes later, and he's like, this is bullshit, man. All right. So that's the difference. It's a test. Now, all the manufacturers, including us, we subject our helmet to the standard NIJ test. All that means is penetration only, right? 5 rounds. So 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. 5 rounds. As long as the bullet doesn't go all the way through the material, you're good. Now, I'll give you an example.
Yeah, what do you got here?
Okay, so here, this is an airman material,
okay,
right? This is essentially similar to what we use in our helmets. Now, that round comes in, and it starts to push into the helmet. It doesn't matter how far that pushes into your head. As long as it doesn't go through the layers of material, is it pass? It's a pass.
Wow.
It's a yes. It's a thumbs up. So the front of the helmet could be touching the back of the helmet with enough trauma to turn you into a drooling vegetable, and it's good.
It's good.
And I don't fault the helmet manufacturers. I fault the testing.
Right.
Just because the testing is archaic.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, at the time, back in 1975, there was no 357 SIG. They didn't have the velocities. They didn't have the weapons that are in the place today that the dirt bags are using. Right?
Yeah.
It was cops were getting killed with 25s and 38s and 22s. And even now, 44 Magnum is an archaic round. Nobody's carrying a 44 Magnum.
Right.
Okay, I hate to say it, I haven't seen a Dirty Harry in a while. So that's why the new certifications, and so now we flip to certifications. The NIJ is just a test, right? Independent lab, take 4 helmets, they get 2 of them wet, they shoot them with 5 rounds of 9, 5 rounds of 44 mag, different helmets, and they're like, oh, it's a pass. Now what we're doing, and this is where Busch became well known, was the AMP-1TP became the first helmet to meet the European VPAM 3 standard. And the VPAM 3 standard is different because now not only do you have to stop for penetration, but now they're shooting up to, I believe it's 22 rounds per helmet. They're also doing different locations. So, like for example, when you saw this, the difference between a 2-inch shot and a 1-inch shot from the edge.
It's drastic.
Most helmets can't stop a 1-inch shot.
Yep.
They can stop a 2-inch, but a 1-inch shot, what happens is either A, the round penetrates, or B, the material folds over and the round passes away from the helmet into the body.
Right.
Now, in the old test, the NIJ, that's still a pass. Because it didn't penetrate, right? It didn't go through the material. The material folded over.
Went around it.
Yeah, exactly. And so the European VPAM 3, the biggest thing they did was they started introducing, you had to limit the energy, and it was measured in joules, and into the head of the officer. And you can't have more than 25 joules measured on any shot. And that's tough to do.
Yeah.
But that included hardware shots, edge shots, and then they started introducing temperature control. So when we introduced the VPAM helmet into the American market, a lot of teams are like, look, this is the U.S. We're not worried about European standards. We use inches, not millimeters, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
So when we started working with a lot of agencies, and especially the U.S. Marshals are the first ones that actually did tests, hardcore tests. Got slow motion video cameras, brought it in, they did the official testing, we were there, and they started subjecting their helmets, our helmets, and other helmets to higher velocity 9mm rounds, and they wanted to see what is happening on the inside of the helmet and what is happening to create trauma. And now with TBI, everything we know about guys coming back, right? Yep. Having served overseas, I know you understand this, right? You got guys that are coming back, they're jacked up from TBI, whether it's concussions or IEDs or banging their head on the inside of an MRAP, right? It could be anything.
Yep.
And that is causing significant pain and suffering from our troops. And so they realized that, hey, this is something we also want to apply to law enforcement. So make a long story short, the Marshals started testing it, saw this results, and they were the first federal agency to say, we will only issue the Busch helmet to our Marshals.
Yeah.
And then that's when, so the FBI, the DEA, at the Ballistic Research Lab in Quantico, Virginia, they did some testing. They compared the results of our helmet, doing their own testing. And they basically, there was a solicitation out there for helmets, and from what I understand, that solicitation was canceled. And the DEA and the FBI, in consultation with the U.S. Marshals, basically created their own protocol, kind of like the body armor protocol. They said, okay, we've been accepting this test for 40 years. Now we need something. We need to expect more.
Right. And
basically that's what they did. They created, and it was issued in 2019. And it rolls off the tongue. It's the DEA FBI Ballistic Helmet Protocol 2019 version 1.0, whatever it is. And it basically is a testing protocol that says, all right, now we're going to require 16 helmets. We're going to shoot 8 of the helmets. The other 8 were going to be used for compression testing, blunt trauma. So now they're testing for blunt trauma, which is huge, right? Because there are actually more blunt trauma events than there are ballistic events.
For sure.
Right? Yeah. And especially in law enforcement, guys falling out of windows, banging their heads in the Bearcat. You could even blunt trauma from riot. I mean, a couple years ago, you ask every law enforcement agent, SWAT team, they're like, oh, no, man, we don't do riot. Well, guess what? Now everybody does riots, right?
Right.
So that's basically what they did, and they created the protocol. And then one thing they realized was, okay, we need to test not just for penetration and backface, but we also want to test under extreme environmental conditions. And that's a big difference because they want to be able to protect an agent whether they are in the coldest winter in Alaska or a hot-ass summer in Phoenix, Arizona.
Right.
And if you ask any cop in America, where do you keep your helmet? 99.9% of them are going to say, yeah, in the trunk of my car.
Yeah.
Right? And where it's hot.
The non-air conditioned portion.
Yeah. And so, this is this is a sheet of polyethylene.
Yep.
Right? Polyethylene is hands down one of the strongest fibers known to man. The tensile strength of being able to for weight ratio is absolutely amazing. It's phenomenal for body armor. It's fantastic for plates. But the problem is, in the helmet space, this is a plastic. And when you start to heat this up at low temperatures, we start to see a degradation in performance at 100 degrees compared to the ambient when they're testing them at 70. The FBI and the DEA, I believe they did a test where they went and they checked temperatures of trunks of their own vehicles in multiple states throughout the U.S., and they came up with a temperature of 140 degrees. So now what happens in the DEA FBI protocol, helmets are heated up to 140 degrees, and then they're shot. And the performance of the lightweight polyethylene helmets that are great for frag, the V50s are actually better on the PE helmets for frag.
Right.
All of a sudden, they all fail.
Yeah.
And not only will they not, and then there's rifle helmets, which these days people are like, oh, we have this rifle helmet. Well, the ballistics of stopping a rifle round are actually very different from stopping a pistol round.
Right.
And at the lower velocities, a lot of these rifle helmets, in fact, if you take out the rifle helmets that are used in the military, you shoot them with a pistol at the 1 inch, they almost all fail.
Right.
They can't pass the pistol test.
Yeah.
So there's a whole
Interesting.
a whole bunch of things about the DEA protocol, and a lot of agencies now are especially worried about TBI and long-term officer safety. So they're trying to integrate that. A perfect example is our pad system, right? So this is a pad from a competitor's helmet. It's, I don't know, maybe 8 millimeters thick.
Yep.
This is just to try to make it feel comfortable. Our pad system is
significantly thicker.
and it's also 2-layer. You
Yep.
notice that we have a blunt trauma pad. So this is a styrofoam, similar to what you see in a bike helmet, that's meant to protect you from blunt trauma.
Right.
These soft comfort pads, they don't do jack if you get hit over the head with a bat.
Yeah.
So that's why we have a 2-pad system.
On all the energy transfer.
Yep. Absolutely. So there's a lot going on.
So when it comes to the DEA FBI protocol, have any other helmet manufacturers partaken and passed, or is Busch the standing manufacturer to actually pass that entire battery of tests?
Yeah. So first of all, my hope is that everybody makes a helmet that will meet the DEA FBI protocol, because it's going to be safer for cops.
Sure.
Right now, we are the exclusive provider to the entire Department of Justice.
Okay.
I believe that people are actually trying to raise their quality level to that standard. I hope they do. The next time the helmet contract comes out, I'm sure somebody will be up there, which will be good for the industry. Having said that, the majority of manufacturers are focused on military, and the biggest reason is everybody wants to go sell Big Army 60,000 helmets.
Right.
Okay. The average law enforcement order in America is like 30 pieces.
Right.
It's difficult to do that. One of the reasons that when I set up Busch PROtective in the U.S. Is we basically bring in a lot of finished components, and we're primarily doing assembly and distribution.
Right.
So while the helmet shells are pressed in Germany, I'm buying U.S. components, and we're basically in California. We are building helmets custom made per order, and we're turning helmets around in 2 weeks for average SWAT teams, which is very different, because when you're behind 60,000 helmets at the U.S. Army, and you call up and you're like, hey, when are my helmets? And they're like, we might put your order in the system in like 6 months.
Exactly.
It's a big difference. So having 30-day delivery or less, especially when all of a sudden there's a Democratic National Convention that comes up, or a riot here, or a situation here, to be able to get stuff quickly can be pretty big.
Yeah. Oh, and something else I kind of want to hit on that I've noticed out in the market, and correct me if I'm wrong, but are there any other tactical manufacturers of helmets that have a sizing system like you guys? Because I think that's pretty unique, having a one-size-fits-all, that legitimately one-size-fits-all and comfortably. Is obviously when you're ordering for departments and stuff like that, if you're rolling helmets over, but from one officer to another, and having the sizing issues that you can have if you're low on inventory of a particular size. What's been your experience with that, and are there any other manufacturers that even offer that to their customers?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
So if you go out and look at, I would say, everybody else, these manufacturers, most of their helmets come in 4 sizes: small, medium, large, extra large.
Yep.
Because that's what the military requires. So we use a larger shell. Okay, we go with the large shell. We don't have a small and a medium. And then we have our one-size-fits-all wheel dial system. It's a proprietary system. Everything we make on the helmet is custom-made by us, for us. We are fully vertically integrated. The only component that I'm not making are the Unity tactical shrouds or the Wilcox shroud.
Right.
Everything else we're making are injected molded. And part of the reason is our one-size-fits-all truly is a one-size-fits-all. So I can tell you this. I can't tell you how many helmets we've put out in the marketplace globally, but in my 7 years that I've been full-time promoting Busch PROtective, I've had one guy not fit in the helmet.
Wow.
And
he must have had a massive dome piece.
That dude was huge. I mean, he made Shaq look like a little girl.
Yeah.
And all we had to do was just slightly modify the pads a little bit, and he was good to go.
Right.
And I think from a logistical standpoint,
that's huge.
One size fits all is huge, because if you ask any department and you say, hey, take me to your equipment room and show me all the size medium and small helmets you have, and they're like, oh yeah, and this stuff, it just goes to waste.
Right.
So no, our stuff is one size fits all. I think it's another reason why so many departments that have stationary targets, like a perfect example, the nuclear security field, right? You've got command posts and you've got sentry towers where you may have 2 or 3 guys there. You can leave 3 helmets in there
pre-staged
that anybody can use pre-staged. It's the same with a fire department.
Yep.
It's the same with an ambulance. You look at a fire truck and they've got 6 seats. I can't tell you how many fire departments have 6 Busch helmets, 1 under each seat.
Yeah.
So it makes things a lot easier. And our pad system, it's the most comfortable pad in the world.
Yeah.
I will take the Pepsi challenge. I have guys that are like, oh, but I hear your helmet's heavier. And I'm like, yeah, it's a little heavier. Put it on. They put it on. They're like, oh, yeah, this feels good.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, and what's insanity, just on the weight side of it, it's, again, coming out and seeing the shoot live, I mean, for a few percentage points on additional weight on the Busch helmet versus Competitor X, the drastic performance difference, it's not even in the realm of the same conversation, in my opinion. It's huge. It's huge. If you guys watch the video, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, and listen, our shell fully loaded is about half a pound heavier than most helmets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You work out.
Yeah.
Like I see these guys, they're all like just
all yoked up. Yeah.
Right? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, you can't handle that. The other thing is, I will tell you this: the balance of our helmet and the weight distribution is really good. In fact, we've had numerous teams that have come to us and have said, hey, by the way, I used to have to wear a counterweight on my old helmet.
Without nods?
Now, we don't have to wear a counterweight.
Oh, okay.
Because the balance is way better. So when you actually look at the collective weight of the entire unit, it's the same.
Yeah.
Most of the time, especially with our new CPP2 pad system, when we have guys put this on, they put it on, they look at each other, and they're like, oh, no, it doesn't feel heavy.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it is about just the quality of the overall system.
Oh, sure.
No, it's not an issue. There's things that we do first of all, we put performance over anything.
Yeah.
Ballistic performance and safety over everything. That's like it's like the bolts that we use on our NVGs, right?
Yep.
I mean,
just about to ask about
and
those.
You saw in the video.
Oh yeah, we actually had one of these small guys actually leave Competitor X's helmet and enter the skull of our test subject.
Yep. So these are the bolts that we have, and this is what I'm talking about. So this is the bolt that most competitors use, right? It's cheap, it's lightweight. These are the bolts that we use in our NVGs, right? Threaded screw, hardened, tempered steel. These are not cheap to produce.
Yeah.
These are very expensive. From a manufacturing standpoint, I'm like, damn, those are expensive. But the difference is we can take a direct shot, we can take a near shot. The round that we put on that NVG of this helmet, I believe that round was what, like 3/4 of an inch?
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. That round was probably 3/4 of an inch from.
And you can see the bolt hole right there.
And that nut on the inside now became secondary fragmentation on the inside of the helmet.
Yep.
And that's huge. Now, they'll also tell you, oh, well, that's not on the NIJ test, so that's not a fail.
Right.
So there's
the test is inherently flawed in terms of providing offers.
I think
safety.
so. I mean, there's technically passing, and then there's actually in the spirit of it, right?
Right.
Like we want to keep everything out of your head.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah, I mean, today was really eye-opening. Yeah, and for those out there that are shopping for helmets, and that's kind of the big thing, again, going back to education, is it's really easy to be shopping, asking your buddies what they've used in the past, talking to other departments and getting, their feedback. Oh, it's comfortable, it's lightweight. But the real question is, who's actually, had contact to the head, either head trauma from ballistics, from bumping your head in an MRAP, Bearcat, whatever the case may be. And then going out to a live fire shoot test and actually doing a side-by-side comparison, because as soon as you come out here and are given the option to go on a op after this, knowing you're gonna have close contact, there's no question on which helmet you're gonna go into the fight with. And so going back to your point earlier, Scott, is just, I think it's massive for other competitors to hopefully try and raise their standards to that level of ballistic protection. When it comes to side-by-side testing, if any competitors out there, I would love to see it myself, because it was really eye-opening today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and it's good. The other thing is, I will tell people, our helmet is not for everybody,
Sure.
right? You have to ask yourself, and as a team, you have to say, what is the mission?
Yeah.
And we talked to a lot of teams. There was a team up in New York. They said, hey, we stand out in front of a building for 12 hours. We're never going to get shot at.
Right.
I want the lightest weight helmet that I can possibly find. I get that. Go buy a frag helmet.
Right.
If I were you, I'd do the same thing.
Yep.
But if I'm on a SWAT team and I'm in the stack and we're serving a warrant, and I can't tell you how many teams I've talked to, they're like, yeah, we get shot at all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Hence the U.S. Marshals, because
Yeah.
like half their job is serving warrants.
Oh, yeah.
So
100%. So you have to ask yourself, what's the mission? What is the right equipment? Sometimes, you've got to find the right product for the purpose. But I'm very confident that in law enforcement situations, it's going to be hard pressed to find anything better than this.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But yeah, man, it's been great. I seriously appreciate you taking the time to come out here and do this for us. And hopefully, our customers and viewers can hopefully walk away with some better education about what they should be looking for when shopping for helmets, when doing their own, investigation into what's right for their department. But to Scott's point, from what I've seen today, it's, if you ever expect to take any kind of rounds, I know which way I'm leaning.
Right on.
Yeah, man.
Well, I appreciate you having me out here, and I thought the shoot was great, even though it was a little flooded.
Yeah, got a little pond back there.
Yeah, but no,
it work.
It was good. I hope it was beneficial for everybody. And I encourage people to come to our YouTube and our website, as well as Kontek, get some product information, and listen. Let's just be real about it. Let's talk about what the needs are, how we can help, and if it's a good situation. And we're very proud of how much business that we've been able to earn in the United States. We're continuing to grow. We're very excited about it, and we want to support law enforcement as best we can. And the best thing we can do is to continue to improve. We're focusing on making products better, lighter where we can, but we will never sacrifice quality for weight.
Yeah,
and that's a key thing.
Absolutely. Oh, that's clutch. Hey, Scott, appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.
And hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
All right, man. Bye, guys.